Hey, welcome everybody to episode 4 of Talk It Over. We have a lot to cover today. We have competition season is upon us, and we have a very special guest, Miss Rachel Fiorentino, joining us out of McKinney. Rachel, thank you for being on today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. I would like to cover a multitude of things today, but first, let's start out, as always, with what brought you to Toastmasters?
I was actually working in a Fortune 7 company, and it was going through a job fair kind of thing. We all got to know what each department and section did, and I just came across this Toastmasters table. I was like, tell me more. At that point in time, I thought Toastmasters did the big roasts, and that's what you did, is you went to big fancy parties at corporate events, and you were the MC, and that's what you did with your DTM. And I had the opportunity to speak with somebody and went to their open house shortly after, and I got bit by the bug. And so my first experience was a corporate club.
So you thought it was a roast masters?
I did. I
Were you
really did.
Disappointed when nobody made fun of you at the first meeting?
No, I think that was a good thing for me that I wasn't roasted, because I still have to work on having that hard shell. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things about being in Toastmasters is accepting all that feedback, so it definitely helps to get that thick skin going.
Exactly.
So what is a Fortune 7 club for people at home?
Well, a Fortune 7 company is just a very large organization. So I can say that it was a healthcare organization, health insurance organization, if that helps. And we had a private club at that point in time that was not open to the public because of HIPAA violations and things like that we needed to be very careful of. And we could advertise, however, on social media. So we kind of played around with it that way. We could show off what we were doing. We just couldn't have anybody from the outside, except for our area director, come in and visit us every once in a while.
That's pretty cool. Being in a corporate club, it does have its challenges. Our Awesome Articulators is closed to only members who are working at the plant. So in fear of like falling off the Toastmasters map, I kind of came up with this Talk It Over type show to just kind of keep our name out there and relevant. For instance, with going to contests and stuff, I don't want people to be like, what club is he talking about? But now they'll know,
right,
where we're coming from. So that was your first club. Was that in McKinney or was that in Pennsylvania, or where were you at the time?
We were in Richardson, so our office was in Richardson. But the really cool thing about that club is we had the opportunity, as our company took on a new client, one of the things they specifically suggested is we would really like our call center agents to be very well spoken and articulate. And we said, oh, we have an answer for that. And the entire call center team, as well as the nursing and the case management team, was initiated into a club. So I got to be a mentor, a club mentor, and we launched and a charter member of a second corporate club for that company as well. And so a really exciting journey. I learned a lot of growth and leadership and mentoring in a whole different way. When you're mentoring someone who, like I was 8 months prior, had no idea what Toastmasters was or why it would make a difference in the corporate world. And now here we were teaching Toastmaster principles and having a club with case managers and nurses and call center agents and the medical director. It was an incredible opportunity.
That is a great point you brought up. And for those watching that don't know about corporate clubs, some corporations will sponsor clubs fully or at least donate partially to either membership dues or materials used at meetings, because Toastmasters gives you such benefit for your communication skills and your leadership skills that these companies actually get a huge return on investment for sponsoring those clubs. And that's what my club is, corporate, and the one that Rachel is speaking about. But there's also public clubs, which you're a part of now, right?
Absolutely. So my corporate journey ended with that company, and I moved to a different healthcare kind of based IT company that I work for, and spent about, I'm going to be really transparent here, about 8 months saying, you know what, I need to find a club. And that went on until I had the opportunity to do a presentation for our VPs. And in my head, I was going, oh my gosh, I just I don't know, what do you call it? Just all of my bad habits came back. And I said, it's got to stop today. I went home that night, went on Toastmasters International, find a club, found the Mckinney Motivators that meets on Wednesday night. Perfect timing for me right here in town. And that was a little over a year ago that I became a Mckinney Motivator, and I have not looked back.
That's really awesome. One of the things I was blown away with was just how many clubs are out there for
Yes.
25 miles of where you live in McKinney or where I live in Princeton. It's just an outrageous number of clubs.
Absolutely. And how each club has its own vibe, if you will, different demographics, a different feel, a different level of formality, yet we're all branded as Toastmasters with the same end game in mind, but how we get there with our different personalities and our styles and the way we do table topics, it's really neat. If the first club you try isn't a good fit, keep looking, because there's a club out there for everyone.
Absolutely. Since we went to this Zoom-based platform, I've been trying to just jump in any meetings that I can. I've been, stateside to California. I went overseas to clubs, one in Germany, and I'm going to try just more as long as it fits in with my schedule, with the time zone changes. But you're right. One thing I have noticed is that we all follow the same game plan, but the recipe to achieve that is slightly different depending on the cultural influences or where you're at. And it's really cool to see that, because I can take some things from this club that I think will be cool at our club, or I can take some tips and tricks from this club and bring it back to Princeton. And then it just makes everybody's club better.
Yeah, for sure.
And the networking opportunities are so great too, because otherwise I wouldn't have met anybody from the places I've been. In our corporate world, it's great because I can meet people from departments that I would never travel to. And now I know I have an expanded network at my own corporation, but to take that to even further level, you could expand your network all across the world just by sitting in on a meeting.
Right. Absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about your first club. Just take us through your journey through Toastmasters, a little more how you got involved with training, because you were a trainer at the Last Chance T.L.I. where we actually met. And just take us through that.
Yes. Well, the whole training thing goes back to when I was tiny. I would line up my dolls and say that, I was going to teach them. And that moved in, through corporate America. I am actually in learning and development and training and onboarding by design. And I absolutely love it. When I had the opportunity to work on an HPL, work on a big high performance leadership project, that's when I started expressing an interest. How do we do best practices differently and not just wait for T.L.I. to have conversations? So I did a high performance leadership project on that, but it really didn't go anywhere until this last Toastmasters season, where I decided to put myself out there and for the very first time entered a competition. And as you were talking about networking, that was huge for me. The amount of people that you meet from different clubs when you are competing and the different connections you begin to make, it opens up an array of opportunities for growth. What that did turn into is, hey, would you be interested in being area director? Sure. And so, and that again opened up some opportunities. Being in area director training is when we had the opportunity. People said, would you be interested in being a T.L.I. trainer? And it involved having a weekend or two of just touching base with, making sure that we are following the Toastmaster branding and things like that, and getting familiar with your slide deck and your content that you teach because of different officer roles that you've held. And I said, sure. I absolutely love training. I love seeing the aha moments on people's faces. I also like breaking it better. So death by PowerPoint is something that scares me a lot. And so I kind of take a slide deck and try to make it my own to make things real for my audience. So I guess that was kind of a roundabout answer to that question of a little bit of my Toastmasters journey. And just get back to that. I was in those 2 corporate clubs. So I was doing 2 clubs back and forth. And I had the opportunity to be a president of both of them at different times in my career. During my 8-month hiatus, I didn't do anything, but I joined the Mckinney Motivators right around officer time and took the opportunity to be VP of PR. And so that's kind of how I ended up in the officer role with the Mckinney Motivators as VP of PR as well.
That's really cool. I am very new myself, but taking on the leadership role of PR has definitely opened a lot of avenues for me that I otherwise I wouldn't have had. I was a trainer when I was in the Navy, and speaking of the aha moments you talked about, it's really great to be able to present things, at least in the Navy world. It was a lot of technical data, power supplies and things like that weren't really that interesting. So it fell upon me to like bring a lot of energy to it, or creative ways to get the information across, always staying relevant with like cultural references so I can make things seem important, even though the information on the page is the
right.
So finding new ways to reach people is really what I love most about being a trainer in that aspect. So also, you get to meet new people every time you have a class, right? So you always got to try to find a way to build that bridge with new people. That challenge is exciting. With the classes I teach now, I get to do that still, even after the Navy. So I think Toastmasters is definitely beneficial for anybody that's in any kind of training role as a professional.
Absolutely.
And putting yourself out there on a weekly basis is great, because you can kind of see what works and see what doesn't at your club, and then take it with you into your real world.
Yes. And the leadership skills you learn in it, even if you're not interested in learning and development, you grow so much professionally, get more confident in delivering really hard feedback to people, and you communicate better, you're organized differently, the projects and the listening skills, just all the skills that you learn in Toastmasters are so transferable, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or an executive leadership or anywhere in between, full-time student. You won't walk away from Toastmasters the same person, for sure.
Absolutely. So when I think about the upcoming contests, right? This will be my first one. I'm going out for humorous speech.
Nice.
I don't know what to expect. We're in a different world now. I've been told that you have to present to Zoom, and everybody watching has to have their cameras off and their mics muted. How do you know if you're being funny? You don't. If you tank, I guess you just tank. Put yourself in my shoes. You said you did your first contest. What contest were you doing? What kind of preparation did you take in with you? And what lessons did you learn along the way?
Oh, okay. I did the international class contest. So our club level was in person, because we were on that first wave. So when it came time for area, they were like, oh, we don't know what we're doing with it, but we're going to do virtual probably. So I think area was pushed about 3 or 4 weeks in, and that was virtual. No, I lied. Area was also in person, and we were way out. I felt like halfway to Tyler. DOD, really cool place. Like, you couldn't go anywhere past the gatehouse. You just had to go right to the stage practically. And that also was in person. Division is the one that was virtual and pushed back a little bit. As far as preparation, I think each time I did my speech, I had somebody video it. Even when I was in person, I had somebody use their phone, and I would look out at it quite a few times. One time to watch my movement. If you watch it on fast forward, you notice if you do this as you're talking, because you plant as a speaker, but when you play it on fast forward, you even notice those really minor in your body that can be, I guess, for judges, it can be distracting. I don't think for the average person it's very distracting, but it lets me know, was my movement intentional and things like that. If I said a sentence differently and I was like, oh, that is golden, like I need to say this phrase a certain way. And especially with humorous, I think that's something you want to make sure that your setup is absolutely precise every time. And so normally I don't write down all my speeches verbatim. For my contest speech, I did. And I would highlight anything that I know that I needed to say that way exactly, whether it was attached to me making a physical transition or a verbal transition, or if it was just a very powerful wordplay, something like that. I did that quite a bit. Bob Terrell, he did not ask me to plug him, but he is phenomenal. I gave him my speech to give feedback to, and he does not give just a typical Toastmasters evaluation. It is like a 4-paragraph, this is what he sees, phenomenal. And that was really nice to get feedback from other people who don't see you speak all the time. Just a whole fresh set of eyes. And then it's just watching yourself over and over and over again and getting different people's opinion. One of the other things I did was I reached out to somebody who I know in Toastmasters who comes from theater, and she was able to help me just think about what was in the background, because this is the room I used, and that was the reason that I, at that time, had 2 gray chairs back there, made sure my blinds were closed because of weird glares. So there's a lot of things like that in the virtual contest world that you don't think about when you're on stage. But that was it. I didn't care about lighting because it didn't matter. And all of those different things, I didn't care about the quality of my mic, or can they see the top of my head, and can they see all the way down to my waist? It's irrelevant because it just happens in person. So virtual was a challenge, but I am so glad that I did it, because you always grow in discomfort, right? When you're uncomfortable and you overcome that, you learn so much. But it also prepared me. I've been home since the first week of March, and we're probably not going back into the office until September of 2021.
Wow.
So that contest season prepared me for this and presenting at a whole different level to my VPs and my clients.
It's crazy. Going home, working from home since March makes this year feel like it's happened in a flash, but it's also felt like it's been 10 years since January.
Yes.
Every week the policies changed or updated, so you don't know what to expect. One of the things I used to do when I would present anything is I would use the stage a lot. I would walk around to get closer to people, look them in the eye. Eye contact's great. I guess one of my challenges I'm concerned about is standing perfectly still on Zoom, if that's something they look for, and just not trying to, I don't want to turn into a robot,
Right. Because now your engagement is you can move this way. So you can move in and out, but not too much, or it looks like a bad camera zooming, and you can go left or right. My recommendation is paint your carpet. So when you're in this corner and in that corner-ish, or that your motions don't go outside your box. So like that, there you go. Just little things like that, because that's what the judges pay attention to. And again, in a live contest, they would say, stay between the podium and 2 feet from the edge of the stage. Well, when you're in the moment, it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, my wrist is off the, what do you do with that? And so practicing that, yes, exactly.
Another thing I worry about is using my hands, and now all of a sudden I got a giant hand and a tiny head.
Yeah. So you know what? That might work though in humor.
So I hope that it'll be a learning experience. I don't plan on winning, but if I just learn from it, that'll be a win in its own, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're VP of PR, right? What are some challenges you had to overcome promoting your club in this new world we live in? Obviously, corporate versus public has its own unique challenges on its own, but what has Zoom done to improve or frustrate your efforts as a PR?
Oh, lots of things. And I'm going to throw out some that are club specific and some things that people have shared with me in the VP of PR training. Social media is finicky. Each platform seems to have its own stereotypical demographic. And VP of PRs tend to go with the one they are most comfortable with. The funny thing is, being a Gen Xer on the cusp of being 50, my go-to is Facebook. So you probably thought I was going to say MySpace, but no, it is definitely Facebook. And that is where our club was most of the time. The interesting thing, if you look at the people who interact, it's all of our members who don't even attend our club anymore. And then the big three, I'll see Monica on there, Hitesh, and different things like that. And it's just very interesting that of a club of 20-ish, I have about 4 people that I know that will like a picture, and a few people will share if they won. But other than that, we don't have a lot of engagement. So we decided let's try a Facebook page instead of a Facebook group. So this can be totally public. We're going to throw things out there. We're not going to tag people in them. They can tag themselves if they want to. And again, not a lot of engagement. We never paid, though. I know that some people have said if you pay to promote, that does tend to help. We decided, let's try Eventbrite. We threw some stuff out there. Eventbrite brought 2 people. And you know what? I really think that those 2 ladies would have really strong potential members had it not been for COVID, because we met at a restaurant in their conference room, and it just goes virtual. And especially in the beginning, if you didn't have the smartphone and the camera and everything else, or weren't comfortable with what was in your house, you just didn't want to meet a new group of people with your, in your laundry room or whatever. So I don't know. I think they could have been really a good fit. However, Eventbrite hasn't worked for us since. I am currently working on a project for establishing your social media presence, and I'm playing around a little bit with TikTok, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know how familiar you are with TikTok, but a few weeks, probably months ago now, one of their things that was really popular was Choose Your Player. And it was like this gaming music. And I said, people join TikTok, goodness, people join Toastmasters for different reasons. And whether it was to be a public speaker or whatever, I did one of those. And I get, a few comments or, likes and things like that. I don't know. I'm sticking with it to see if it works. My club thinks it's hysterical because I'll do some private ones and throw them into AV, the AV for my PowerPoints or anything like that every once in a while, just to make it interesting. So PR is very interesting though, because I can't just hang out with you after the meeting and talk to you about, tag team with the VP of membership and see how it's going and how'd you hear about us and did it work and things like that. It's in some ways our Zoom virtual environment has made it easier to be a VP of PR. And in some ways it's harder. I think people are Zoom fatigued. The last thing they want to do after being online for 9 hours a day is to then be online again for another hour and a half in the evening. Like they're just done with Zoom. So it definitely presents a different challenge. Open houses have been fun. We've had one and we're getting ready to plan our second. That was fun. And we've had our other successful event that we did was an Around the World, where we met with our sister club in Taiwan. So there were about 35 of us online and about 15 of them were from Taiwan. And the rest of us were from the Texas area. And that was a blast. Again, it got our name out there. Did it recruit new members? No. Did it anything like that? And at the Mckinney Motivators, we don't really necessarily think about recruiting for us. We think about recruiting the next Toastmaster. Hopefully they choose District 50, even better if they choose Eastern, even better if it's Area 16. But if they become a Toastmaster and grow as a person, that's the win because we play on a big team. So that's really important. All that to say, there's ins and outs of social media, right? It's hard. It's something you have to be very intentional about. And I'm saying this and being, again, very transparent. because the last 3 weeks, I haven't been really strong about promoting my team or my club, because things have been going on in the area and things like that. No excuse, but it's one of those things you have to be really intentional about, to let your club know that you see them and you're excited about their accomplishments. So getting that out there, and the promoting end of things too. You know, many people like that extrinsic reward of, hey, Sean, you got best speaker last night. Your speech was awesome. And I love that you did this. They love that, because then they can share it with their friends. And that's really important. So it's just very valuable to be very intentional about how you do it within their boundaries.
I can see how that would promote that word of mouth spread. Promoting one person, they tell 3 friends, and those 3 friends tell friends, and then hopefully your club grows. Kind of the process behind this show, interviewing people from around. Maybe they'll show some friends the show, and then they'll know people that want to be on the show, and then the show will grow. Same thing for Toastmasters with being in the corporate club. I feel like your only hope at this point is catching new hires, right? Because everybody that's been at the corporation knows about Toastmasters, and if they wanted to be there, maybe they would have already been. Another thing is time constraints, because work always comes first.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my challenges, I wouldn't say that Zoom has changed that much, because we still have, Zoom has changed the PR process of a corporate club that much, because we still have in-house emails, and we still have flyers and stuff like that. Unfortunately, if you've worked at big companies, you know, a lot of those all hands messages go right into the spam box, or or they have people have their Outlook rules set up to where they don't even get bothered by those anymore. That's a challenge. But yeah, no matter what I do, how exciting I can present the club, you still only have like those few core members that you can expect to either see at meetings or see on this social media platform, or are going to watch your show online or whatever. But it's just fun to embrace that challenge and try to make growth.
Absolutely.
And recently, switching to Zoom, we've found that while there's many plants of our company around Texas, there's not that many Toastmasters at them. So we're trying to spread the net of the corporate club that way. So in that instance, being able to have people work from home and meet on Zoom as opposed to meeting in a conference room really allows there to be a wider selection of people that can come.
Absolutely.
Wider selection. You know what I meant.
Yeah, you can cast a bigger net.
Yes. So what's new in McKinney? What's going on at your club lately? You got any people going for the humorous contest?
We do. We did not. Oh, actually, we do. We have 2 candidates. We have a female who's going out for humorous, and we have a gentleman who's going out for evaluation.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Super excited. And then our area contest is on September 12th. And we're doing a theme of a virtual tailgate. So we're going to kind of hang out. It's all like Cowboys colors and things like that. And we have 4 clubs that'll be competing. Exciting.
That is a really cool idea.
Yeah. Just figured, shake it up. We didn't know at the time when we picked the theme if we were even going to have football right now. Good thing is I'm a Gators fan. And so the SEC is kind of, I didn't even notice. That's awesome, Charles. So, so we have some games coming up, and I don't know, what it's going to look like for the NFL. It's still a little squirrely here and there, but we are going to have a virtual tailgate on September 12th, regardless.
Well, I don't want to turn off any potential viewers, but having an all SEC season really only makes sense because those are the only teams that really matter.
Right.
Texas
I
and
get
Oklahoma, maybe, but definitely. Just kidding. Anyways, so how'd you become a Gator? You're from Pennsylvania, right?
Okay, so funny story. When I went to school traditionally, meaning that I graduated from school in 1988, and I know. And I went to a really tiny private Catholic college called Cabrini College, which is on the main line outside of Philadelphia. And at the end of my freshman year, a bunch of us all decided to go to big schools. And so I went to Penn State, but not main campus. I decided to live at home. I went to Penn State, and we had a friend who went to Ohio State, and then my friend Scott became a Gator. And then we were like, okay, so we're all at football schools now. how do we still hang out together every year? And it literally was a combination of a dice game and a drinking game that determined that whoever won that game, we would be diehard fans of that university's football team as long as we shall live. And that is how I became a Gator.
So that would put you in the 92, 91 time frame?
Had I stayed on my traditional college path, but I did not. I actually graduated 5 years ago, finally got my bachelor's at Arizona State University. And so now I'm a Sun Devil.
This is weird.
I know.
Fans and my wife went to Arizona State, or she's going now.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, well, the 90s was a great time to be a Florida Gator fan, and the mid-2000s was also a great time to be a Florida fan, and it's just been an uphill climb since then. So hopefully we can beat Georgia this year and get back to the SEC championship, to the glory days of old, especially now that Alabama is terrible.
Right.
All right, one last question for you, right? This is just about the area you live in, McKinney. I live next door in Princeton, but if someone's watching this that's never been to McKinney and they're coming in for a weekend, what's 2 spots they have to see?
Oh, can I do 3?
Absolutely.
Can I break the rule? Okay. I would say if you just love small town America, you just have to hang out at the square. So that's one place. Get some burgers. There's great wineries. There's the Celt. You get some good Irish punk music going on and stuff like that. Just a fun vibe in downtown. If you like microbrews, number 2 would be Tup's Brewery. Super fun. They have concerts right now that are socially distanced. You just can get a parking spot and listen to music on the big screen. Totally fun. And if you like nature, the Herd Museum has the coolest trails. You have no idea that you're half an hour from Dallas. You're just walking in the middle of trails, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So if you just love the wildlife and being in the middle of nowhere, the Herd Museum and Nature Conservatory is the place to be. And on Wednesdays, once we can meet live, then you have to be at Spring Creek Barbecue on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock to stop by and visit the Mckinney Motivators, because we're always looking for people to come steal our banner. So if you've never done a banner raid, that's a blast.
What is that?
So I think it's Toastmaster tradition, but if 5 people from one club go visit another club, at the end of that meeting, they get to take their banner. And the only way a club can get their banner back is if 5 people from that club go get their banner back. So it's kind of like stealing the mascot, but it's done very politely because it's what we do as Toastmasters, right? So we went to Allen. I don't know, it was snowing that night. So clearly maybe December, January-ish, we went to Allen's Toastmasters and we did a banner raid, and we also won table topics that night. And then we had their banner and their squeaky toy. They use a clicker. Instead of a clicker, they use a squeaky toy for their and ah counter. And we stole their little dog squeaky toy too. And then they came to our club about 2 weeks later and took their banner back. And I would imagine that once COVID lifts, they will probably come again so they can steal our banner and take it to them. So we have to go back down. But it's a blast. It's fun.
So as a corporate club behind a secured gate, we could just catalog banners and nobody could come take it back.
You know, I think we'd have to like, I don't know, make sure that you bring your banner to a contest or something so we can.
Well, you know, I don't know. I don't want to bend rules here.
Right. But I never thought about that, the stockpiling in closed clubs.
Well, listen, thank you for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely.
I'm getting more comfortable as I go through with these episodes. So each one I think is better than the last. And you mentioned Bob Terrell earlier.
I did.
I connected with him on the training Facebook page just this morning, actually. And I sent him access to my first 3 episodes to give me feedback. So
you will love your feedback.
Episode quality, it's Bob's fault.
Nice.
Unless he tells me to wear a tuxedo, in which case I'll just leave that on red.
Yeah, you should definitely go with the blue and orange. It works.
Yeah, the tux shirt, the tux tee.
I
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Do you have any last minute shout outs?
think that's it. I guess the Area 16. So District 50, Area 16, we rock. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yep. Thank you.
Chomp.
Later.
Yeah, thanks.